Ready when you are.
Okay. All right. Welcome to the Leading the Way podcast. We are your hosts, Maza Zimmerman and J. Alvarado. This is episode 4. I want to take a moment and I want to thank you. Really,
Me?
yeah,
Okay.
I want to thank you because this is something that I've been wanting to do for not a very, very, very long time. Like, it's been a life journey, and but I would say in my professional career, this is something that I've been wanting to do. And I tried to do it initially and, got in car and just crashed right into a wall because I didn't have enough of the skill set to make it happen in its entirety. And we met, not that long ago, just a short time ago, and instantly connected.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to you and I remember saying, look, not to be awkward, but I feel like God put you in my life for a reason, and I feel like we should be making content together. And you were like the answer to all of the questions I didn't even know to ask, one, and then all the questions that I had. And so from the moment we decided, and then I knew it would work, and I knew that when I asked you about this, that you were going to say yes. I never had any doubt. From the moment we decided that this is what we were going to do,
Yeah.
I never had a doubt in my mind that it would happen. And we hit some bumps in the road throughout the process. This was supposed to start August 1st.
Yeah. Yeah.
The 1st is August. For those that are watching or listening, this podcast was supposed to start August 1st. And it was bump, and it was a bump, and it was a bump. And then we got here one day, and nothing was working. And
The equipment was bad. Yeah.
yeah, and I never lost hope.
Right.
I never was like, well, we'll just figure it out.
It never felt like it was going to fall through.
It never felt that way. And
I agree.
it always felt like this happened on purpose. This was not by accident, and just the planets aligned. And I just really, really, really want to thank you for just joining on this journey together, because it literally is a dream come true to be able to sit across the table and make content that's going to impact other people. And so I just want to say thank you.
I'm going to say thank you right back. I've always been like a creative person. I've done a lot of things. I have a lot of like creative skills, but finding someone that I could truly collaborate with and someone who can stick to it as a commitment, I've never been able to find that. So it's great to be able to find a partner who I can actually do something with, and we can keep it up consistently, So it's great. It's like the grown-up version of my kid projects, and it's great. And I'm loving it. I'm having a blast. So thank you too because I have a lot of the skills to, put all this stuff together, but I can't do it all on my own. And without you and without your help and your motivation and helping to keep this thing going, and your enthusiasm, right, is a big thing for me. I wouldn't be able to do this on my own either. So thank you too.
Yeah, and it's really a lesson for you're welcome. My pleasure. It is an honor and a pleasure to be able to do this. And it's a lesson in itself where interdependence is so much stronger than independence. And it's sometimes the hardest thing to get people to realize, and a lesson for those that are on that journey, that you don't have to do this by yourself.
Right.
Just because you're the single person with no kids and you have that doesn't mean someone can't sit in the passenger seat while you're on this journey, or someone can't sit in the back seat while you're on this journey.
Right.
Sometimes you'll pick someone up and they'll go a few roads and then they'll let them out and then someone else would join. Like there's so much power in collaboration and collaborating with people who are like-minded, who can help you move. Like if you think that you're just going to wake up and do this by yourself, you're kidding yourself. It's just, there's absolutely nothing you can do by yourself. Nothing. Well, I woke up this morning and what? My bed, someone built it. Right? You can go out in the middle of somewhere and the road you're walking on was paved by someone.
Right.
There's nothing you can do by yourself. It will always take collaboration, whether it be direct or indirect, to help you get to where you need to get. And the more you can channel that,
Yeah.
and really just let that be the driving force of I need to position myself around people. You know, I think we were talking about in episode 1 or 2 where it was you want to be the boxer, right? And you're in the middle of the ring fighting this fight.
Right.
And then at some point you have to go back to your corner.
To your corner, yeah.
Who's going to be your cut man? Who's going to be your trainer? Who's going to be your medic? You need a team of people that can help propel you forward. It's the only way it's going to be possible.
Right. Yeah.
This whole, I can do it by myself. No, you can't. You can't. It's plain and simple. You can't.
Yeah.
Not all you, no, you can't. You need a team. So take the time and start to get to know people. Make connections. Just start talking to people.
Yeah.
And, you know, it'll happen for you.
Yeah. It might take a while. It took a while for me to find someone like you to legitimately care and want to, you know, do something, collaborate. But yeah, people are out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just wanted to start off with that. And, you know, I think the listeners and viewers deserve
thank you
to hear that. Absolutely. Yeah. But now, episode 4.
Episode 4.
We're getting into that. In episode 3, we left off talking about passion versus survival.
Right.
And what that takes and how to prioritize your values and, you know, your purpose and what that looks like from a tangible
and when
level.
to prioritize which and when to shift from one to the other. Yeah.
And when to shift.
Yeah.
Right. When to change gears, when to stop, when to pull over, get some gas, when to stop, go in a hotel, sleep. All of that is involved in the journey.
Yeah.
And you've got to be the one to navigate when it is time to do so. It's not just one straight shot. Sometimes there will be kind of a dormant area where it's like nothing's really happening. Just wait. So that's a part of growth, right? You can stare at a plant all day. Nothing's happening. It's happening.
Right.
It may not be at the pace you want it to happen, but trust me, growth is happening. Or maybe it's not. And maybe you do need to pivot into something else. And that's a part of the journey.
Yeah. Knowing when to do that.
Yeah. Journey doesn't look like a straight line from here to there. It's a line that kind of just goes everywhere. And when you're in it, it's like, I feel like I've gone nowhere. And then you stand back and it's like, wow, I've actually made some progress, you know, but yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, so what should we talk about today? We're talking about, we're talking about a lot of things, right? But people don't really know who we are. We talked about briefly, right? I think it was the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe today we talk about, you know, who we are, where we come from.
So who are you? Who is Jay? Casper.
Oh boy.
AKA Casper.
Oh,
who is Casper?
That's a long story. Let's not start with the Casper. Let's ignore the Casper. All right. Okay, sure. I'll start. So Jay is actually short for Juan Manuel, right? I am Latino. I'm half Argentine, half Mexican. I was born in LA. Actually born in Compton.
See you in Compton.
That's right. Me and Ice Cube, straight out of Compton. So I was born in Compton, and I moved around a lot as a kid. As a young kid, like a lot of, you know, Latinos born here, like my mom only spoke Spanish at home, so I didn't actually speak any English when I was a kid. I didn't learn to speak English until I went into school, right? I think like kindergarten, first grade, I started to learn English. So when I had hair, it was blonde. Like as a kid, it was blonde. It was straight blonde. I have green eyes. I have really light skin. You know, so if you saw me in the street, you'd think I was like some little German kid or something. But like I didn't speak a word of English. It was just all in Spanish. But I moved around a lot. Man, it's kind of tough. Let's go back and forth. I don't want to spend a whole hour. All right.
I was like, feel free, keep going. I'm enjoying the ride.
Okay. So where were you born? Tell me a little bit about that.
So I was born and raised Los Angeles, California. Same house, 30 years.
That's insane.
Same house. I didn't experience moving until I got married.
That's crazy. Okay.
Polar opposite.
Completely. Until my freshman year of high school, I was in at least 3 schools every single year. My freshman year of high school was the first time I spent a whole year in one school. So I have no idea what it's like to stay in one place that long.
And I only went to 4 schools. I did kindergarten at one school, and then I went to Percy, and then I went to Perry, and then I went to Gardena. And those that was it. And like I said, I stayed in every room in the house because we just kept, that was moving
Rotating?
for us.
Okay.
Rotate, keep the bed here, move your clothes to that room. But yeah, I stayed in the same house I lived. It was me. And at first it was me and my mom and my dad and my sister. And then my brother and my grandmother. My brother was born 8 years later. Then my grandmother moved in with us quite around the same time.
So a little brother.
Little brother.
Is your sister older or
older
younger?
sister.
Older sister.
And so my sister is 3 years older than me.
Okay.
And then my brother is 8 years younger than me. Yes, 8 years younger than me. And then I lived in the house with both my parents and my grandmother for the majority of my life. And it was that from that point on, around 8, 9, all the way up until I was 30, until my sister got married and she moved out. And then I got married and moved out. And then my brother moved out and was in college. But yeah, it was the same household. It was the same pretty much dynamic my entire life. And so I never knew what moving felt like. And then all of a sudden I got married and I did. And culture shock, I guess. But yeah, 30 years.
That's really interesting.
One house, same street.
You were 30 years old and you moved out. Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, I took advantage of, I made I have the luxury of
Being at
going
home.
being at home, going from this job, this job, this job, this job. And now I paid my own bills.
Yeah.
And so I didn't get a cell phone.
I would hope so.
Until, well, I mean, nowadays,
Yeah, that's true.
but I didn't get a cell phone until I think I was 16. It was right around 16, 17. I asked my parents, I said, well, I want a cell phone because, people are starting to have cell phones nowadays.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, I think you need to get one of those things called jobs. And I was like, all right. And then I got a job.
Wow.
And then from that point on, I always had a job. And I stayed with it. I wasn't at all the most responsible financially, person, but I had a job. All right. So now I'm high school. Now, throwing it back to you.
High school.
Now
Okay.
we're high school. And
So,
what are you doing? What matters to you the most? Is it guitar? Is it girls? Is it
yes.
bills?
Yes. Yes.
Like, what's going on in your high school mind right now?
So I was always kind of like in the advanced classes when I was a kid, and then, but my childhood was really pretty troubled. There was a lot of I don't know how much I'll go into it, but
Yeah.
there's quite a bit of abuse and stuff in my childhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once I got to adolescence, right, once I was a teenager, I kind of just stopped caring, right? Because life was so tough and so miserable all around that, like, being a good student didn't matter anymore, right?
Yeah.
I was still pretty bright. I didn't care, so I wouldn't go to school a lot, or if I was there. The difference was, and I kind of got lucky, right? Because I've always been really nice. I've always been a people person. I've always, talked to people. So I got really lucky because whenever I was in school, I did well, right?
Mm.
So the tests, I would get great scores on my tests. I would participate in class and I knew the answers, but homework I would never do. As soon as I was off campus, school didn't exist anymore, right? And I'd miss a lot. So a lot of the teachers I was friends with in high school, they kind of caught on, right? They knew that I knew the material, but they knew that once I was out of school, I wasn't going to do anything. So I got really lucky, and they advocated for me. Mm-hmm. And they spoke to the principal, I think, and they might have spoke to someone at the district at the time. And so they set me up to take, it's the CHSPE, the California High School Proficiency Exam. It's basically the exit test you take to get your diploma. So it was basically like, look, like the way you're going now, you're going to end up getting kicked out because you never show up, you don't do homework, but in class, you know what we're teaching you. So luckily enough, they set that up for me, and I took it, and so I got my high school diploma when I was 15. And so I left high school in my sophomore year. Right, so I was 15, and then it was just me and my mom. Okay, so siblings. Oh man, it's hard to just get to one thing, right? It's all interconnected. So I have a lot of siblings. I have 7 brothers and 4 sisters.
Jesus,
a lot of siblings, right? None of them are full-blooded. So I have 2 older brothers on my mom's side. My oldest brother is he's 60. Did he just have a birthday? No, he's having a birthday next month. Well, depending on when this comes out, right?
Yeah.
So he's 63, I think, 62, 63, right? And then my youngest brother, I think he's like 14, 15. There's a huge gap, huge gap there. But the younger ones grew up with my dad. The older ones, they left home early, so it was always just me and my mom, right? So I've got a lot of siblings. So when I got my high school diploma, my mom and I moved again. And right away, like, she got a job, but she just couldn't hack it, right? So she got fired, I think, on her second day. And it was like a telemarketing job. And but when she got fired, she said, hey, my kid's got a really good voice. And, he's good on the phone. Maybe you guys want to hire him. So I went in and I interviewed and they gave me the job. So I started working. And so I was 15, maybe just turning 16. And I was a breadwinner. So my mom wasn't working. I was paying the rent.
And this is at what age?
I was 15 or 16.
15.
Yeah. I'm sure my older brothers were helping out, but they weren't around too much. It was always just kind of me and my mom. So I immediately went into the workforce. And then I don't know what I was thinking, but I thought, well, I hated high school, but let's give college a try, right? So I went
This is
immediately.
going to be different. I don't have to study. I don't have to
exactly. And again, like without a lot of guidance, this full-time college is like 12 units, but I started taking 22 off the bat and had a full-time job. And so I burnt out pretty quick. I did that for a while and I burnt out pretty quick. But yeah, you moved out when you were 30. I think the first time I moved out, I was 16. The first time I moved out. Once my mom got a job and she was able to pay the rent and stuff, yeah, like I split. That's the first time I moved out. I was 16 years old. When I wanted a cell phone, I had a job. I bought one. Yeah. So it was very, very different. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I had a completely different high school experience. I was not in the advanced class unless it was band, because I was a band geek. I was in marching band, and that was what I loved about high school. That was what I loved about junior high school. Elementary school was different, but music was music, and girls. That was the focus in high school. And I didn't do poorly in school, but where I really excelled was in the band room. And I went to the same high school all 4 years, and I did that. And then once I think I was a junior in high school, and then I got a job. My first job was Quiznos, and I loved it because my best friend was my coworker, and then my sister was my manager, and it was like we were the A team. We always did a great job, and it was work, but it was fun. Like, it was just nonstop laughter, and so life was grand, for me. And then I hit a point where I was like, I'm playing the trumpet now.
Yeah.
I have no idea what I'm going to actually do after high school. College, oh my gosh, what am I going to major in?
Yeah.
I kind of don't want to major in music because to me, music was trumpet. Music wasn't anything else but trumpet. That was my kind of representation of what music was at the time of my life. And I didn't want to play trumpet professionally. I didn't want to. And so early on, I wanted to be a cartoonist.
Interesting.
Because I loved drawing cartoons. And
I don't think I've ever seen you draw.
I haven't drawn in I don't know how many years.
Okay.
And, maybe a stick figure here and there with my daughter, but I don't draw anymore.
Right.
But I wanted to be a cartoonist because I loved drawing cartoons. And but then very quickly, that wasn't going to happen. And so I remember one of my best friends, the same person I work with at Quiznos, said, well, maybe you should do music. And I was like, I don't want to do music. And so I started just applying. And I'll just be honest, I didn't get anywhere. And I didn't apply to a lot of places. I applied to maybe 4 colleges, and I didn't get in any of them. And so I went to El Camino.
Okay.
And I was at El Camino, and I said, well, I've been in church choir basically my entire life. I'll try choir, see how that works. And I was expecting, because choir, you don't realize how much you live in a bubble until you step outside of that. But you're like, wow, this is. And so for me, music was trumpet or it was church choir. It was gospel music. And that was what music was to me. So then when I joined the choir in college, we didn't do any gospel tunes. I was like,
right.
Wait, what is this Handel? What is Bach? What is, the closest thing to gospel music was Moses Hogan. And I was like, what is Moses Hogan? And I fell in love with it. I was like, well, I could do this. I could do this choir thing. And it was choir from that point on until I transferred to Cal State Fullerton, post Fullerton, still to this day involved in 2 different choirs. And then leadership became, but I really had to kind of find my way in the lane I wanted to drive down, in the car I wanted to ride in.
We're back to the car.
It's going to live on throughout this podcast. But yeah, it was high school, and now it's 2 completely different mindsets.
Right.
You know,
that's funny, man. We have so many like opposite experiences. Like you worked with family and it was great.
Yeah.
I worked for family. It was horrible. It was so bad. So that job that I took over from my mom, it was a telemarketing job, and it was for a construction company, right? Yeah. And it was calling like residential homes and asking to do like a fire restoration, I don't know what, right? So I go in, and I believe I was 16, right, when I was at this place. I'm 16 years old. Everyone else is adults, right? There's like 5 other people on the phone. They're all adults. And I think within the first month, they promoted me to supervisor because I could speak clearly and I was kind of smart. At 16. And I knew how to speak to people on the phone, right, in a professional manner. And so they immediately promoted me. So I was like 16, and I had an office and I had a staff under me. I'm like, okay, I'm running this place. Fine, cool. And then when that happened, 2 of my cousins were like, hey, we need jobs. And me, first time really in the workforce, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll give you a job. I can hire you. Worst thing. Worst thing. So one cousin was female, and she tried sleeping with a boss, right? And that created this whole drama in the office. So she was let go. And then another cousin, a male cousin of mine, this was back in the day, you know, when they had like answering machines, right?
Yeah.
So I get a call from a customer one day calling back. They want to speak to the supervisor. And they're saying, hey, you know, we just got a death threat on our answering machine. And I'm like, I am so sorry. Tell me what's going on, right? So they had an answering machine, and they would screen their calls. So they would let the answering machine pick up, and, you know, before they answer their phone, they would screen their calls. So it was a family, and they had their little kid leave the outgoing message. So there's this little kid saying, hi, we're not home right now, blah, blah, blah. So so I have them play the message back for me. And so the kid stops talking, and then the recording goes, and it's like, I'm hiding under your bed tonight with a knife, and I'm going to like, it was like bad, right? It was really bad. And I instantly recognized my cousin. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I apologized to them profusely. Luckily, we didn't take it any further, but I had to fire him there on the spot, man. And it's like, I think working with family has never worked out for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I think that's the only time, like outside of when I was directing a choir at my church, and you know, my mom was singing in the choir at one point, my wife at one point was singing in the choir, my brother at one point, my cousin. Like outside of that was the only time I actually had like a legitimate job outside of, you know, being in the church setting where I was working with family. Like I said, it was nothing. My sister and I had a great relationship growing up. We were always close. And so there was never any like animosity towards one another. Or,
gotcha.
You're my boss and my sister. It was my sister and you're my boss. This is amazing.
Right.
Like, I'll take this any day. Lucky. But I also had a decent human being as a sister.
Yeah.
That wasn't, you know, doing death threats or trying to sleep with someone else.
Pretty bad.
Yeah. So it's, you know, different experience. But I mean, ultimately I had a great childhood, a great, you know, adult life. I messed up a bunch. And I learned a lot. Yeah. You know, and that was, you know, there were some things I would do differently. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, I remember I was in college, and a friend of mine hit me up and was like, hey, and this is when I was like knee deep into choirs, and I was singing and I was directing. Hey, let's audition for, you know, the Dapper Dance. I didn't even know what a Dapper Dan was at the time.
Like a barbershop trio or quartet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? For Disney. For Disneyland.
The Disney ones. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And I didn't
cool.
really know. I knew Disneyland, but I didn't know about the Dapper Dans or what they were called.
Right. Yeah.
I said, yeah, sure. Okay. Did a little light searching, you know, Google, and found out, oh, this is what it is. Okay. Yeah, I can see myself doing that. And we went down to the studio and went together and we auditioned, and there's like 500 guys there all that. I'm like, oh my God, like this is a bit overwhelming, a bit intimidating. And then it's just literally it's sessions, and they just every session and every round they cut.
Wow.
So they start
It's brutal.
They start at 500, and I'm just it was hundreds, but they start at 500 and they end at 25.
Right.
And so I made it.
Wow.
And so I made it through the entire thing, and then I made it. And then you do a light contract signing, and this is what, and you'll have to learn this amount of songs in 3 weeks, and rehearsals every single day. And I was like, ooh, I'm in college right now. I can't, I got class. I can't miss 3 weeks of class. They're just not going to let me.
Right.
And so I turned it down. It was a good hourly wage and everything. And I was like, excited, but I was like, I can't do it. So I turned it down. And then next thing you know, Disney contacts the school. And all of a sudden I get, an email from the chair of the department saying, hey, let's talk about life and the meaning of it and this and that. They see me and I was like, hey, yeah, I got a phone call from a representative and this, and they're saying that, you need to miss 3 weeks of school, and I'm sure we can work something out. And
wow.
And I'm like, yeah, I turned that down like 2 weeks ago. I can't do it.
Right.
And so I turned it down. Like maybe a month later, I'm on the beach walking, and all of a sudden I get a phone call. Yeah, this is so-and-so from Disney World in Florida. We heard about your audition. We want to do this and this. And I'm like, oh my God, it's like, we can take care of your moving expenses and this and that. Yeah, I turned it down. I can't miss. Man, if that were today, I'd have been like, sorry, dropping out. Like
You're right, yeah.
I left school anyway. I would have been gone.
Yeah.
I would have changed, and I would have been moving to Florida. Well, I would have taken the initial job and
and be a Disneyland.
and been a Dapper Dan, had a year contract. But
That's funny.
you live and learn.
Yeah.
And that was like one of my regrets. Like, dang, I should have took that. Like, in hindsight,
that would have been a fun job.
I should have took that job. That would have been fun. That would have been a nice experience.
Job. That's funny. I've never heard you sing. I'm not going to make you sing right now.
No, because I'm not going to.
No. But at some point, like, man, I got to.
Ooh, on the podcast? I'm gonna have you.
Ooh. Not sing.
That's
Maybe...
like episode 25. 25th anniversary. Then I'll go ahead and...
Because you've never heard me sing either. You've never heard any of my music.
No, I have not.
Interesting.
So we'll do like Grey's Anatomy when you have like a singing episode where everything is just sung.
I don't think
the entire time. Welcome to the...
Maybe at some point we play some of our music on the podcast, but not live, man.
or live.
Oof, or maybe live.
You guys want to hear it live, right? Let's do it live.
I'll bring a guitar. That's how we can end every episode. We'll sing them out together.
There we go. So that's a little bit about us, a little bit of who we are, our background.
Up to college.
Yeah, up to college. And you'll get to know us more as we, take this journey.
Yeah, little by little.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So again, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching or listening. Right. And check us out later.
Awesome.
All right.
Peace.
Later.